Yay! Woo! All right. Okay. So that works. I think we just need to close things. So, as you can see, we are in a little bit of a different environment today, but still, we are. I'm Kate. I'm Erica.
We're from an ExMo.
And a NeverMo.
Walking to a Pride Festival.
Festival.
We're not at a bar today, though we were able to get some of this stuff from a bar here at the Pride Festival. And Johnny, our guest here, was able to get a
Dr. Pepper.
This is not sponsored by Dr. Pepper, but hey, we need drinks of all types.
And we would take their money if they wanted.
If they want to just give some to us, that'd be fantastic for promoting them. So, Dr. Pepper, if you're listening. So anyway, we are in a totally different environment today. We are having an amazing time. You can see there's a bunch of people behind us. We're at the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network tent here at Pride in downtown Salt Lake. This is the first time we've ever done a live, so we're a little bit janky today. We just have our everything's a little bit different. So we have our two microphones. You'll see us passing back and forth. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a wacky, wild, fun ride, I think.
Yeah.
And we'll be here we're going to be here again tomorrow walking in the parade. So we're really excited about that. And if you are in the Salt Lake area, you should come by and say hello, because we would love to meet you if you see this before then.
For sure. I want to tell you a little bit about how this all came to be. Is TikTok has actually been a really great connector for all of us, including our guest, Jonathan, who we're going to introduce in just a minute here. Well, right now, hi, Jonathan.
Hi.
But TikTok has been such a great tool for helping people through their healing journeys. And so I started my TikTok journey August of 2023. So I'm almost 2 years now. And that when I first left the church, and I went to TikTok and I found so many content creators that were like, "You're not crazy, Kate," because when you leave a high demand religion, you think you're the only one. You think you're the only one dealing with these issues. And then to hear people share their stories was awesome. So we have a lot of these content creators that I met for the first time here today. We're with Sam, Can't Pray Me Away, who is part of the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network. And also our guest, Jonathan, who is going to be with us, and a bunch of others, which we can talk about later. But let's introduce Jonathan. How are you doing, Jonathan?
I'm doing good. Just having fun at Pride here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jonathan is an author. He's written a book, and show it to everybody. What you got for us, Jonathan?
So it is Closeted, My Life as a Gay BYU Student.
So you just said gay and BYU student in the same sentence.
I did, and those aren't supposed to go together, I'm told.
No, right. So what we would love to hear a little bit about your journey, like where you grew up, and a little bit about just tell us a little bit about what happened there.
For sure. So I grew up in Kaysville, Utah. Very
Sorry, let's try that again.
you're all good. So I grew up in Kaysville, Utah. Very suburban area. And I went on a mission in the Philippines, and just kind of a outwardly normal childhood potentially, but I mean I did always kind of know that I was I will not touch that button.
I think it's on still.
It's on.
It's green, yeah.
Oh, but
See,
doing a fun live here is full of all of these live experiences.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I ruined
right.
I don't know what blinking means. Like, what could blinking possibly mean on a microphone? It's
I think
on
it's
or
gone
off?
solid.
No, it's solid. But why was it blinking? That was very weird. Here
I don't know. I
You're
almost
pros, you can tell.
ruined everything.
You're totally
It's
fine.
okay. I'm used to it.
Damn it.
Just
No,
kidding.
it's perfect.
So yeah, it was outwardly a fairly conventional childhood looking in, maybe not conventional, I'm not going to say that. But I did always know I was gay, and that was definitely something that was a very omnipresent part of my childhood. And part of the reason that I think it's kind of fitting, I suppose, that we're here with the Conversion Therapy Survivor Network, I always stumble over the name, I'm sorry, is that, I, along with a lot of my, queer friends, were basically taught to either through faith basically try to change your sexuality or suppress it in the best case scenario and still just marry a woman and be a part of the church somehow.
Pray the gay away.
Pray the gay away.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of skipping over a lot of details, just a lot of how my childhood went. And then I ended up going to BYU because of some friends who were going there, and I just wanted to essentially be with friends, and I knew I was gay, and so I thought that coming out of the mission, I actually thought that BYU would be a super great fit in that way, because I obviously didn't want to end up gay, and so
So you thought BYU and that experience would fix you?
Yeah, I mean, I think
And
that
anyone who's listening, I put "fix" in quotations.
yeah, no, I think that by the time that I had gotten to BYU, I had kind of accepted that it wasn't gonna change, and so I think I had gotten to a point where I thought, like, the structured environment will at least keep me in the church. It'll keep me safe, and if there's a plan for me to marry a woman, maybe it will happen there. Essentially.
Wow. And did any of your friends know that you were gay, or were you totally in the closet?
At that point, I was totally in the closet. Hadn't told anyone.
Wow.
And you didn't know anyone else who was gay?
No, I did not. Well, I did have a friend who came out in school, but didn't come out really to him until after I had started to come out.
Why do you think that was?
It was scary. I had been taught to fear it, and I had been taught a certain thing about it, about being gay, and so I just, I was. It's really hard, I think, to describe, even to people who were in Mormonism but not like really in it. It's really hard to like describe how in it I was, if that makes any sense. I mean, I had, and being gay was definitely almost, I don't want to say catalyst, but maybe that's the best word, to me being extra Mormon, because from a young age, if you're not in a supportive environment, you're basically taught to hate yourself for your sexuality, and so you start to look for any anchors to normal society that you can, and the church was that for me. I thought basically that as long as I was in it, doing it, that I wouldn't have to accept or acknowledge that part of myself.
Mm-hmm. So, did you end up coming out while you were still at BYU, or had you already left? Wow, how did that go?
Well, okay, so there was
probably a really great experience, right?
Oh yeah, let me tell you. No, the first year nothing happened. It was actually pretty much everything I wanted out of BYU. Like, it was great, and but kind of by the end of that first year, I had kind of started to run out of steam on the idea of like staying faithful and following the plan. Not that I was deconstructing yet. I was just losing steam, and I knew I was losing steam. And so I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to basically either put up or shut up at this point. And so I was like, I'm gonna try to actually get in a relationship, and I'm also maybe possibly going to interact with other gay people. not date, interact.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I was at the beginning of the second year, and because of that, I did get into a relationship with a girl, but I wanted to be super clear with her up front, and so she was actually one of the first person I came out to.
Wow.
And it did not go well.
So wait, can I step back for 1 second?
Yeah, of course.
Clarify. So you were in like a romantic relationship with her, and
Yes.
you said, but also, I'm gay.
I said that I told her I was gay before we started dating,
and she
still
was like, okay, let's date though. Wow.
She
this is like a
this
whole world
this is
for me.
this is not I'll just be right up front before we dive into this. This was not a normal relationship, and it was not. My experiences here are not exactly in the norm. We'll just say that, and we'll say trigger warning. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Trigger warning.
Yeah.
Tune out now if you don't want to maybe be triggered.
Yeah.
So basically, she kind of she viewed my sexuality as kind of a. She wanted to save me. I think maybe is the most charitable way to put it, and she used that as an excuse to become like sexually abusive, essentially. And so that lasted for about a month until finally she was like, yeah, we need to go see the bishop, even though from my perspective I felt that I had not done anything. I felt that I believed in what I thought that the church had essentially taught about, rape and abuse, that essentially it wasn't my fault, essentially. But I don't think she ever saw it that way. And so she kind of forced us to go to the bishop together, and the bishop I ended up the first time with the bishop was us together, and I don't know why we went in together. She kind of forced that to happen.
Even though you're not like really, I mean, you're not a married couple, or
No.
you're not a family.
No.
You're in a singles ward, right?
No. I just think that she really thought that if she controlled the situation, she could save me or something. I don't know.
Where does that sound? Does that sound familiar? Where somebody wants to control the situation?
I don't know where I've heard that, or anything about like victim blaming and blaming the person who's on the receiving end of the abuse. I feel like we never talked about
Never
that.
Definitely not.
Themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, continue.
So yeah, essentially the first time I wasn't very clear with the bishop about what had exactly happened, and I did end up trying to clarify later that I didn't feel at fault and that I hadn't instigated anything, and that like genuinely everything like and again, I'm going to reiterate, I don't think that my situation is all that common. I'm not, I don't know. This is one of those things that I've always not entirely known how to address, because I'm not trying to say anything here about like gender or female male abuse. That's just not something that I know how to tackle. So I'll just say that with that. But it was definitely a situation where she was, being abusive in multiple different ways, and when I tried to clarify with the bishop, it wasn't a situation where it was viewed as abuse, if that makes sense. And
was he because I'm really curious about this, because this is from an outsider's perspective.
Sure.
Just this whole bishop relationship is very different for people who didn't grow up in the church. I'm curious, was he supportive of what she was doing in the effort to save you? Does he think she was on a good path?
I'm not sure that she ever had any repercussions, other than at the time when we went in together, we both got our sacrament privileges taken away, and I got my temple recommend not taken away, but I was told not to use it
because you were gay, or because
no, he didn't know I was gay.
He didn't know.
He just knew, because I didn't know how to talk about it, and I didn't know what to say, and so I specifically said, our relationship's been getting a little too physical, and I was kind of wishy-washy about it, and I can understand why he took it the way he did, sort of. I did try to clarify, and I don't feel like he ever really wrapped his mind around it after I clarified, but I can understand the initial reaction of thinking it was just two college kids messing around.
Can I interrupt by saying I would have acted just like your girlfriend?
Really?
Wow.
I totally would have. If it got to that point, I would have been like, you and I were going to go repent. I totally would have done that. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Easy.
I cannot even, I mean, like from my NeverMo perspective, if I were ever dating a man and he was like, I'm gay though, I'd be like, oh, let's be good friends. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way I would actively try to pursue that because it just sounds terrible for them, terrible for me.
But
Terrible.
we have to be good in God's side, when the church's side. And the best way to do that is confess your make-believe sins in front of a grown-ass man who has no right like knowing what your sexuality, your sexual orientation, your activity. So no right knowing those things. But they've taught me from the time I was little that you have an impure thought. You have to go talk to the bishop and knock over things. Here's the microphone.
Sorry, like we said, we're live, so and we're here at
And
Pride.
I'm a klutz.
I can attest. I am a klutz too. She's maybe the only person I've ever met who's klutzier than I am, and I am a super klutz. I walk into walls. Sometimes when I'm eating, I stab myself in the face with a fork. Right? Like literally, I'm like, ow! Like, how do you miss your mouth as a grown ass adult? Like, it's wild.
I've not done that.
So
We're
maybe
klutzy in different ways.
we're klutzy in different ways.
Anyway, back to Jonathan.
Back to your story. So continue.
Yeah, so the relationship lasted a little bit longer after all of that, and it really did just get to a point where it was like overtly, in my opinion, overtly abusive, mentally, emotionally, sexually. It was abusive in every way to some degree or another, and I had so much anxiety about like breaking up. It's actually kind of ridiculous how it took me a while.
Were you afraid she was going to be more abusive, or were you afraid that was like the final brick on your path to damnation, or both?
A little bit of both, because I guess in a way I was actually trying to break up with her the entire time.
I can understand why, because she sounds lovely.
She does.
And attractive too.
I wouldn't be able to say on that one. But yeah, there's a little bit of overlap between the end of that relationship and me kind of dipping my toes into the queer community.
And there was a queer community at BYU.
Yes.
An underground queer community?
Kind of.
About when was this, would you say?
2015.
Gotcha.
2015, because I was in attendance at that same queer group the day and the time that the November 5th, 2015 policy change happened.
I don't know what that is.
It's basically the policy has flip-flopped. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is now, to be perfectly honest. But at the time, they had defined the church policy with regard to gay people as essentially inherently being in a state of apostasy if they embrace that part of themselves. And then
apostasy is bad.
Yeah, it's like a
leaving the
state
church.
of disbelief and in opposition to the church.
And this was also when they said if you're a child and you have gay parents, you may not be baptized into the church until you're an adult.
So Jesus-y.
So Jesus-y, yeah. Do you
And
remember why they even said that? Why did they say that? We don't know.
I don't know.
Homophobia. Okay, so
I think it was under the guise of like protecting kids, but at the same time, it's like, why are you gonna throw someone out like just because they have gay parents? Like if there's a gay parent who's for some reason wanting to be supportive of their child in the church, like why do you care?
Well, maybe they think it's catchy.
Yeah, well, of course they do.
Yeah, they definitely don't want people intermingling too much with someone who thinks differently.
Right, of course. No, yeah, everyone has to be cookie cutter and the same. I do want to ask about the gay community at BYU. For anyone who doesn't live here or isn't super familiar with BYU, That's Brigham Young University. You probably know that. They're super Mormon. It is run by the Mormon Church, and
The driest school in the nation, right?
maybe
you
Liberty.
cannot even drink off campus
Whoa.
at BYU because of the honor code.
And you have to have an ecclesiastical endorsement to go, meaning you get your bishop to sign off on your ability to go to this school.
Yep.
And you are not. Sorry, go ahead.
Which means you have to be following the word of wisdom and the law of chastity and all
And you
the
have to have
other.
like a missionary haircut. You have to be clean
Yep.
shaven.
No
Yep.
tattoos, right? No leggings for girls.
No.
Literally everything I'm wearing is illegal there. I have
Yeah.
leggings on and my porn shoulders.
And gay Jesus
Yep.
would never be allowed to
No.
go to BYU with his haircut. Oh.
No
Nope.
way. He
Basic-
looks so much better with the long hair though.
Basically, minus my facial hair, that's what you have to look like. And if you don't look like that, then you can just fuck off.
You can't say fuck.
You can heck off. You can heck off. So, but what does an LGBT do you get together and try to pray away the gay? Like, what does? Because any other school is supportive of that. Like, I went to
Yeah.
Boston University. If that was like an inclusion group where people could come together for support and allyship, but at BYU, I imagine it would be the opposite. Did you get together to try to not be gay? Is that what the gay community is at BYU, or to find a way? What is it?
Yeah, so BYU itself does not have queer focused anything.
Of
Gay
course.
people don't exist
It's
as far
illegal.
as they're concerned. And the only thing within the church is just a awful organization called North Star.
Yeah.
That's basically just like be straight and deal with it. So there.
What a logo! Or, not a logo.
Yeah, we need to put that on a
motto.
shirt.
Be straight and deal with it.
Well, I'll interject a little bit. I was Young Women's president when 2 of my youth came out to me.
Oh.
This was in 2020.
Wow.
And there were no resources other than the church handbook. And that sucked because they're like, you need to use the pronouns they were born with, and you need to
Oh
use the
my
name
gosh.
they were born with. And so, I mean, that caused me a lot of confusion for me. But I remember at the time going to my Young Women's stake president, and I said, what do I do? And she says, let's go to North Star. She said, I went to
Oh,
North
no.
Star. But the thing is she was far more open and loving and accepting of the LGBT community and those girls or the trans kids in our ward than, say, the bishop of the ward, who was like,
Yeah.
no, they don't deserve to exist, whereas she was a lot more open. So I'm not super familiar with North Star, but I will say that it did impact one woman
Positively.
really positively, which in turn affected me positively.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably not the most educated person on North Star.
I'm not
my,
either.
My perception is that they're not the worst, which may not be saying much, but they're not the worst.
Mhm.
And they at least say we accept that it's not something you can control in
Oh,
terms
that's
of
good.
your,
So there.
So it's not maybe the greatest direction, but at the same time, it's not like you're inherently evil for who you are.
Right, which is a step up from some of the messaging that I've heard. Are we getting?
We are getting a comment. We're getting a little.
Sorry, we haven't done a live before. Look at us, we're like, ooh, technology.
Somebody commented. Well, thank you, Rudy. We do need to engage with our audience. You're absolutely right. So we're glad you're here. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here.
And you can hear us. It sounds like so
Yes.
that's good. So
can
the
hear us.
mics are working because we couldn't do a mic check. We're
Yeah.
pretty low tech today. It's like 1994 over here.
I don't know what song is playing in the background, so I can only hear the bass of it.
Were you alive in 1994?
I was
Okay.
by 2 years.
Oh, no. Ouch.
I'm sorry.
Anyway,
So, do we need to respond to any of this?
we are engaging with the audience. Yes, bonjour. So glad that you are here, Rudy.
Yes, thank you for being on our very first live.
Yay!
And it will be recorded and will be up on all of our stations as well. We hope, if all goes well. Who knows? But that's the hope. So back to the story. So what?
Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead.
No, you can
Oh,
wherever
I
you
was just
want
going to
to.
go back to the queer community.
Yeah,
or the,
yeah.
So there's another group called USGA that at the time it was understanding same gender attraction. So right there, you kind of have an immediate kind of compliance with the university, even though it's not an official university club. It's a situation of them trying to like immediately comply with the university in order to make it so that the students get immediately like honor code violation for having attended.
Oh,
If that makes
wow.
sense, because you actually can't participate in clubs that are too against the school.
Controversial.
Yeah. So at the time in
I mean,
particularly,
it makes sense, but
yeah, at that time in particular, they were really trying to walk this fine line of like being a community support group while also not, you know, putting their patrons' schooling at risk. So, but I would,
wow, that's interesting.
yeah, it was definitely a fine line. But I do think that they ultimately are a pretty good organization. They changed their name a little while ago to be Understanding Gender and Allyship, which I think to keep that acronym while also like totally change the meaning is just was just like brilliant.
And they're allowed to function on campus as
No.
oh, they're outside.
No, they're allowed to function in the public library
Oh,
in Provo.
got it. Okay.
Provo Library let this happen? I grew up in Provo.
Provo is a Mormon central. I defy you to find a drop of alcohol in Provo. I go to a film festival there, and it is you can. There are some places, but most places no.
No.
All around, like we would like be on little breaks from the film festival and be like, let's get lunch and a drink, and they were every place. No.
And as one who grew up in Provo, Utah, I could say yes. I have a friend who grew up in Salt Lake County, and we were good college friends. And she was more Mormon than I was.
What?
Yeah, like can you imagine? Like she went to the temple like every week. I only
Only
went,
if you
like,
had a prayer
once
dress
month.
and like the bomb on there. That's more Mormon.
No, she was more consistent than I was. But when I met her in college, I mean, she was from Salt Lake County. I was from Utah County, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm from Utah County." She's like, "Ugh, you're from Utah County? Ew." That's what Utah County and Provo is like.
It is. It's pretty wild. It's like one step from the FLDS, one generation from many wives.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on with your journey.
So yeah, I started attending USTA, and that was I think really good for me. I kind of started dating, and I would say that I made mistakes in dating when I first started like gay dating, but at the same time, I would also kind of say that like when you grow up gay, there's no kind of model for you to I don't know, look up to or aspire to in terms of like how to handle basic things that I feel like a straight person would most likely understand. Maybe that may be unfair to
I
say.
think whenever you're dating, when you start dating, it's always like you're awkward and you don't know. Like there's all. I think that's for anybody. Like
yeah, and I guess to kind of soften what I was saying earlier, it would probably just be like take a gay person and probably just take a gay person from Utah and maybe just assume that they're about 10 years behind their peers in terms of like dating experience.
And I think that's true across the board for anything around, like even like she's having like Mormon room Springa and like dating and telling me things, and I'm always like, what? Like, you know, and having the same sort of experience as a straight or similar. I can't talk for you, but
you did a great job. Good job.
I can't talk for her apparently.
Yeah.
And you can talk for me too.
I will talk for Erica as well.
Go on.
But I just feel like anytime you're trying to like, I don't know, change your community or go against that in any way, I definitely think that there's social kind of punishment in the sense that you lose your immediate community and you lose so much of not only the community but just like the skills that the community gives you to survive within it. You kind of are a little bit of a toddler almost in that sense, where you've got to just figure it out, but no one's there.
And there's no
You
one
got to
to
do it on
ask.
your own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
there's
can't ask
no
your
one.
dad.
No.
Yowza. So while you were at BYU, did you have to keep it sort of under wraps for the entire time? Did you come out to your family, and then did you get kicked out? Were you allowed to stay? Tell us the thing. What happens? I'm dying to know.
So that's that. Everything would have probably gone quite differently had that thing with my ex-girlfriend not happened. Because essentially, we had gotten onto his radar and were essentially required to go meet with him every 2 weeks. Well, I was becoming gay actively. And so
I can imagine that was a real picnic for you.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm like terrible at lying to the point where, maybe not terrible at lying. I don't know. I didn't ever see a reason to lie. So when I did start dating, like I didn't want to necessarily tell my bishop, but it didn't feel avoidable for some reason, and maybe it's just because I was so in it and still just kind of getting out of it.
I so wish you were like really sassy about it and gave him lots of gory details.
I did give him a little bit of sass because
High five!
I remember specifically him saying like, oh well, okay, so and again, this is where I try to be, careful and respectful and basically say I recognize that my situation is not like most situations. But he had a very low opinion of me before I came out because of, I was the priesthood holder. I had gone on a mission, all these things, and how could I allow this thing with my girlfriend to happen? And so I came out to him to basically like, because I told him, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't feel like I need to repent of this.
What?
Good for you.
Yeah, I told him that.
People did that?
No, I told him that.
People would do that. I'm like, no, I would never. I'm like, you're right, Bishop. I do need to repent. No, but
That's awesome. So bad. Yeah, another for me too. That's awesome, Jonathan.
What did he say to all of that?
He really lost all respect for me at that point because he was like,
I'm
kidding
your
me?
authority.
Yeah. And so in order to kind of clear my name, I was like, well, I'm gay, so
Oh my
And
god,
then-
I love that like that was what was used to like clear your name to the bishop. You're
Yeah.
like, I'll just say this other thing that is like hell and damnation.
I'm
Did
gonna.
his jaw just drop? Was
No, he was like, what makes you think that?
Oh my god. I hope you said, well, what makes you think you're straight?
Yeah.
No, I said it might be the fact that I'm attracted to men.
Yeah.
That is an even better
So-
answer. I like yours better. And
But
then
yeah,
what
no.
did he say? This conversation is fascinating. I wish I had been a fly on the wall.
No, it was just fucking wild. I don't know. I don't know if he believed me because this was before I.
He didn't believe you. You're
This-
not gay.
This was
You don't know.
yeah.
Trust me.
This was before I went off the rails and started dating men. But then when I dated men, like I was still being required to meet with him every 2 weeks, and so
What would happen if you didn't?
well, I did not, and they found me.
You didn't go?
No.
Yeah,
It was like a month.
You're rebel. He is a
It was like
Mormon
a month.
rebel.
I didn't do anything wrong.
No, you didn't.
I was
Good
so
for
angry
you.
and indignant that
Good
I
for
should
you.
be like held responsible for this thing that I didn't ask for.
And
I
he
know
should be ashamed of himself. He should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah,
he
I-
did do something wrong.
I tried to clarify. I just don't think it ever like even entered his mind that a non-consensual situation could happen to a man. I don't think that was even.
which
it was
is
just
also,
a foreign concept to him.
and that is insane because that happens a lot. I mean, not as much as the other
Yeah.
way, but it definitely happens, and I know people that has happened to.
Yeah, and so when I did start dating men, it was probably a session that he scheduled because he had his little minions that bishops have in YSA words.
So
And
they've sort of,
Yeah,
for a
yeah.
never Mormon, they sort of spy on you basically,
Kind
or
of.
have like,
Kind
which
of.
is wild.
Yeah, and so after I had started gay dating, I kind of told him the situation, and I was in a disciplinary council the next week.
Wow.
And so I prepared for that, and I did not tell anyone. I didn't call any witnesses.
You should have brought your boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
Yeah. So yeah, there was that was a bad week.
What?
I
Were you afraid? Sorry, were you afraid of losing your
ecclesiastical endorsement.
ecclesiastical endorsement? 'Cause,
Yeah.
I
So
mean, that means you could not graduate from school if you lost that, right?
Yeah, so I did ask him that when he told me that there was going to be a disciplinary council, and basically at the time, I don't know what it is now. At the time, there was 4 possible outcomes to a disciplinary council, and it was excommunication, which would obviously end my schooling. Disfellowshipment would end my schooling for as long as I was disfellowshipped for. There was formal probation, which is what I got. That didn't affect my schooling, but I don't even know what formal probation is. It's basically just do all these things and make us believe that you're sorry, and then we'll let you off, or something like that. Kind of arbitrary, I feel like. And then there was obviously the option for no action, which didn't happen.
So what did happen?
I was placed on formal probation, and it was supposed to last for 3 months, and I was supposed to read all these talks and everything like that. And I don't know. I didn't really. Everything was just falling apart, and I kind of saw the writing on the wall.
You're like, this isn't gonna work.
Yeah, I had 2 more years of school minimum, and so
Did you finish there, or did you end up transferring?
I ended up transferring.
Good for you.
I
Another
ended
high
up
five.
transferring.
Oh, high five.
It just-
all around.
It just wasn't gonna work. I mean, there's more to it than that, but yeah, that kind of was the end of the church for me. But BYU has a counseling center down in their basement of their student center. It's not as bad as you're thinking. They have licensed professionals there that are, real therapists, and I was able to get a therapist there.
But aren't they hamstrung by, like, if you say
They are.
They can't say it's okay to be gay, right? Like, I feel
Yeah,
like any other therapist in like a normal situation.
for sure. Mine was gay,
Oh,
and he was doing I don't know what the words are in the therapy world for like a residency or something like that, but he was doing basically that, some kind of residency type situation with the BYU counseling center. And for him, it was a choice between like BYU and the U, and I for some reason I think that BYU accepted him.
that's crazy.
So it was definitely probably the best thing that could have happened to me, ironically enough, coming out of that situation. And like with the book, I didn't want to just like, because like up until the disciplinary council, it's like just awful thing after awful.
Yeah.
And I didn't totally want to leave it off there, obviously, and so I kind of like wanted to show, maybe this will kind of tie into the theme here, like I kind of wanted to show how my life was just like falling apart for like 8 months basically, and to the point where I was like extremely suicidal. And I started going to therapy, and I left BYU. You know, I got into a relationship, which is obviously not like the goal of life, but like I kind of feel validated in a weird way because like immediately after I got out of BYU and got out of the church, my life stabilized. I felt like a normal-ish person, like with trauma. Like I just it was kind of validating in that sense to just get my life back and to feel like, yeah, it was never me.
And that is fantastic. And that is something I think, I don't know that we've talked to at this point, probably hundreds of ex-Mormons in different spaces, whether in interviews or just around. There is not a one that has said, my life got worse when I left the church. Every person says their life is infinitely better. And it's hard. There are some really, really hard things about it. And it is like losing someone in some ways, like it's like a death. But we've talked to so many people here at Pride today, some people who are just coming out of the church, some people who have been out for a long time, and all of them just feel so much better, which is like, it's just so it's amazing to hear.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your book and where people can find it and what inspired you to write it and
Sure.
all of that kind of stuff. And we'll hold it up again so people can see it.
Go ahead.
Closeted by Jonathan Alder. I'm trying not to cover anything. So tell us a little bit about your book.
So writing it was a pretty interesting experience. The moment I decided to write it was when I learned that the boy I liked at the time had this massive crush on my therapist.
Oh no! That's a crazy love triangle.
That was the moment. That was the moment. I was already in therapy. And so I knew.
You're like, I need to write this shit down.
I knew.
I was a public author, damn it.
Yep. And I've always been into writing, and I had text messages, I had school assignments, I had disciplinary council letters, I had so much to document that entire year. And every now and again in the book I'll drop a specific date, like that happened that day, because I just had that so well nailed down. I wrote it in 2017, and it took me 2 months to write because of how complete everything was, the outline and everything. It was simultaneously kind of the easiest and the most difficult book to write, if that makes any sense. It definitely kind of re-triggered a lot of trauma, obviously, but at the same time, I think it was like really healing, because I really kind of started to forget in a healing, but not in like maybe a trauma response way, but like before I wrote it, it was just so clear in my mind, and like after I was like, yeah, that feels like it happened a long time ago, sort of thing. And then I sat on it for a few years and published it maybe in 2022, I think.
Awesome. And is there, I'm going to put you on the spot because we did not talk about this before, but I'm curious, is there any part that you, like a paragraph that you want to read or share? And you don't have to, but is there anything that you would want to read from it? I should have asked you this before,
off of
sorry.
the top of my head. If I could find a bit from the back, maybe.
Should we sing something while he looks?
I think we should ask him another question since I totally distracted him.
Okay, no. What's a good Pride song?
I don't know. What's your favorite Pride song?
I don't know.
Pink Pony Club.
I do like Chapel Roan.
Oh no, this is the first time we're not all synced up. I don't know the Pink Pony Club.
We'll have to play it later.
We'll definitely play it. Okay.
I do have a paragraph that I feel kind of like sums up a lot of the journey.
That'd be great.
I suppose.
Okay, go.
So this is kind of mid-chapter, but basically, I'll just read it. In some ways, I still didn't know who I was, what I believed, or what my moral code was. None of that mattered, though, because I had the leeway to learn all of those things. No one could kick me out of school for being gay. Culturally, I was a Mormon, and good can be found within every culture. But here was an opportunity to graft in something new, find something, become someone that was uniquely me. And I kind of feel strongly about having left it on that note. Like, it's very inconclusive, but in some ways I just feel sorry. I don't know why I have to cry.
Because it's awesome. It's very, it's made me tear up. Like that's great. Go on.
So I felt strongly about ultimately, as much as the book is about me, ultimately it not being about me, and like not being prescriptive at the end, and like just saying like I got out of it and I had the room to breathe, and whatever would come next would be mine, and it would be my choice.
And I love that, and that is so hopeful. And we're going to do a lot of upcoming episodes about healing and hope, and in some instances spirituality on the other side. But I love the notion of, and that's going to make me tear up, of you finding yourself and like being able to be who you are. And that is a thing that I hear all the time from Mormons, ex-Mormons. They don't know who the hell they are because they've been told, you believe this, you think this, you eat this, you drink this, you read this, and you have no idea who the fuck you are. But then you get out and it's so hopeful. It's your choice. You get to figure out who you want to be. And I don't know you very well. I've met you, I think this is the second time. But you are lovely and awesome and wonderful. And I'm so happy for the journey that you're on. And I imagine you're much happier now than you were then.
Yes.
And maybe I'll ask you if it's okay. I don't know if you have anything to say about this, but we met some people today who were just leaving, and so many people say it's so hard when you first get out and you are losing so much, but there's a lot to be gained. I don't know if you have anything to say about that, or where you are and how much better off you are, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, all of these things happened almost 10 years ago now, and my life looks completely different. I'm married, I have a husband, not a wife.
Yay!
And
good for you, the husband and the wife. Everybody wins.
Yep. And we've in a lot of ways we've been so lucky in life compared to where we started. And he has his own stories, but I don't know anyone who would go backwards on a journey of figuring their life out. And in some ways I feel like that's a lot of what deconstruction is.
Yeah. So I have a question. If you were to just give one message to anyone who's still closeted in a religious space, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that it can be scary. It can feel like there's nothing outside of the church. It can feel all sorts of things, and it doesn't have to be that way. It does take a step of hope, to be a little bit tacky, I suppose, but you have to take a step, and just one step at a time, and you won't go back.
Is there support for people at BYU now? Do you know?
USGA is still around, and they are, as far as I'm aware, they seem like a good organization. I don't know them personally. I don't know anything about, I don't know the inner details of the group, but they seem to be a good group, and they seem to be reactive to what's going on in the world. They seem to be adapting to the ongoing needs of BYU students. They are a student-led organization, and they've maintained that student leadership throughout the years, which is great, I think.
That's awesome.
That's very cool. Thank you. Like, your story just gives me hope too. I mean, growing up in the church is hard enough, but to grow up being told that your sexual orientation is wrong, that you are wrong on just a basic level is just gotta be just terrific. So we're just so happy for you that you've been able to come out.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I just want to add, because we are at Pride, and you can probably see there's lots of things going on around us. I am not gay, and I've never been a member of the church, but being here, I can speak to, there's so much love here. It is such an amazing event. People have just come by and said hi, hugged us. We've had so many hugs today. So I don't feel like I'm necessarily the right person to give a message to anyone who's closeted. But there's this on the other side. There is this, and it's just accepting and beautiful and happy and lovely.
And we're so glad you're a part of that.
We're so glad that you're a part of that and that you're here. Oh, and where
Thank
can
you
people
for
find
having
your
me.
book before we wrap up?
So it's on Amazon and Audible, and it's pretty much on any book selling platform out there. And I have copies that I can sign and ship out as well.
Awesome. Great. So I think we're probably at the end. So I don't think we prepped you ahead of time, but we're live. Whoops. And we're not editing this one. So for people who see it in the future, while it's live now, I don't think we're going to edit it. It's just going to look pretty much like this.
Yeah.
But at the end, we always say cheers to deconstructing Mormonism. Yes, that's okay. Soda is okay. Mine is
Not
really
water.
mostly water, but there's like a drop of gin in there. So
That's totally bad luck.
So, cheers.
On the count of 3.
1, 2, 3. Cheers to deconstructing Mormonism.
Oh, watered down alcohol. Like
Yum! Warm, watered down alcohol, guys. It doesn't get any better than this.
Thank you.
So yeah, thanks. And we'll be back tomorrow, probably for another stream. And then we'll be posting this to all of our platforms.
Okay. Happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride!
See you.
Happy Pride.
Yay!
No be life.
Okay.